Hello everyone, my name is Svanfridur Mura, and today I'm going to be running through a presentation I gave at a Solve Climate 2030 panel on climate ed that was hosted by Ramapo College. The purpose of this presentation is really just to introduce teachers of any grade level, of any subject, to the importance of student empowerment and integrating that into climate education, and then finally how to actually make empowering lessons. So first, just to start off, why student empowerment? Why do we think that this is so important that we are spending an entire video and an entire section of our website on this topic? Well, really, you can teach climate change with many different purposes in mind, right? You can teach it with raising awareness, very common, with job and college preparedness in mind, and depending on your goal, how you're teaching climate change, what you're focusing on is going to be slightly different. And because of this effect that the purpose has on the actual process of the education, we are not looking for these things like raising awareness and job and college preparedness when we're telling people, teach kids about climate, make climate education a priority, right? When we're thinking about what our goal should be in climate education and what needs to be at the center of any teaching or curriculum development around climate ed, it really needs to be empowerment of students. Why is student empowerment so important? Well, for one, there's a really big difference between empowerment and simply raising awareness, right? One of the most common purposes people have in mind when they're teaching climate change. Raising awareness is really a quantity over quality type thing. It just aims for a surface level understanding in as many people as possible, with the idea that if more people are just aware, they will all want to be inspired and want to help solve the problem. Well, we've seen that doesn't work. Many people are aware of climate change, and many students are already aware that this is an issue. However, if they're not already walking into the classroom passionate with this awareness, that simple level of awareness raising is probably not enough to get them to want to do something about it. The actual process of teaching people when you raise awareness is also very passive. And it doesn't really engage students, especially because it's largely negative, right? We're usually raising awareness about the climate problems, not necessarily the climate solutions. And after years and years of everyone talking about climate change as kind of that classic background, by the way, the world is ending issue, many kids just have learned to tune that out. Empowerment, however, teaching for empowerment aims for a much fuller and deeper understanding of the issue. It's really aiming for that quality over just that simple quantity, grab as many people as possible, make sure they know type thing. It's also it inspires a lot more active way of teaching. It focuses on engaging students and inspiring them to be a part of this process, a part of the issue and a part of the solution. So it teaches them that they are actors on this stage. They participate in the climate problem and can in the climate solution. They aren't just an audience or passive spectators like raising awareness often makes it seem. It also builds on existing awareness. So students are going to be walking into the classroom with existing levels of knowledge on climate change already, especially as you get into the older grades. So empowerment really meets students where they are and builds them up to a place where they feel like they are a part of this story and they have a part to play in it, and they can choose what that is, versus raising awareness, which is a lot more of a kind of flatter way of teaching. We want you to know this. If you already do, great. That's how we're looking for. It's also simply teaching for empowerment more effective. So if we consider that our goal is change, right? We want to change our society to fight climate change and work towards fighting this problem, then empowerment is going to be what leads to the action that leads to that change we desire. So it directly leads to that impact. And then if you consider only what's the most effective way of teaching, well, teaching for empowerment simply leads to better attention and to more interest. Because if you are telling kids, you are part of this story, you can take action, you can have an impact on this, they're going to be more interested than if they feel like it has nothing to do with them. And when you're more interested, you tend to remember more. Really, teaching for empowerment is what allows us to truly achieve our goal, which is, yes, fighting climate change and really a generation that is prepared to fight climate change as well as to live in a world with a permanently changed climate. To achieve this goal and to prepare students for the future, we need to start empowering them to act now, not just to hear about the problem, but to actually take what they're learning and go out and do something with it. Because of this, with that in mind, empowerment cannot be peripheral. It can't just be another item on our checklist of this is the things we need to cover in the classroom. This is the things we need to do when we're teaching climate change, right? Instead, it needs to be at the center of climate education, both the foundation that climate ed is based on and the goal that is being aimed for. This is what will make climate education truly effective in achieving those goals for prepared generation and, of course, of climate action that will hopefully mean our generation does not have to be prepared to live in a permanently changed world. So now that we've covered why empowerment around climate ed is so important, how can you as a teacher actually go about empowering your students in the classroom? What does empowerment actually mean? What does it look like? Well, empowering lessons are, first of all, local. They focus on what is directly around the students. This means focusing on the ways that the climate problem manifests on the local level, what it looks like directly around students in their backyards, and also what solutions exist on the local level, what they can be doing, what their community can be doing, what they already are doing and are seeing just in your town or your area around your students. On this level, kids can actually see that they can make a difference. Globally, things don't feel the same way, right? When you're learning about how climate change is impacting someone on the other side of the globe and how people there may be preparing for it, students don't see how they fit into that picture. But when you're focusing on the local level, that is a place where students can really see themselves acting. They can see their family and their community around them actually going out and doing these things. And that sense of place is very important to actually giving students a sense of power. Similarly, just like we want to be in the here, we want to be in the now. So empowering lessons are current and they focus on the present, not the far future. This means focusing on what students can do today with their present level of power. Obviously, as young people, as minors, we have a limited ability in what we can do. And many things that we hear, right, that classic saying, you'll understand when you're older, kind of follows those lines, right? You'll be able to do this when you're older. As an adult, you will be able to decide what type of house to buy, what type of car to drive, what type of career to choose. But none of those things really apply to us now. And many kids forget things, honestly, that we are told we can do in the future, just because there's so many of those types of things being told to us every single day of our lives. So empowering lessons can't just tell students what they'll be able to do with a level of power they will grow into, but a level of power that they have right now, teaching them that even though you are a child, a young adult, at the moment, that doesn't mean that you are helpless, right? We do have power as we are. We may have more in the future, but that doesn't matter right now. What matters is that you can go and take action today, and this is what you can do. And it's a lot more likely for students to feel empowered to take action and then actually do that action if you're telling them something they can do today or tomorrow or next week than if you tell them something they can do in 5 years, right? It's a lot harder to forget something in 5 minutes than it is in 5 years. Next, empowering lessons are action-based. They stress actions that are achievable for students themselves. So this means focusing on actual things students or people they know, friends, family, community members can go out and do that are feasible and that show the real difference that students and those around them can make. This means not just focusing on things like the science. The science is incredibly important, obviously, when talking about climate issues, theoretical ideas or other really big, broad ideas. Because when you focus on those types of things, it's hard for students to find where they fit into that picture or to know how to take that and to apply it to their household or their community, how it fits with their everyday life. So when you really focus on the actual things, the verbs that students can actually go out and do and partake in, that they can visualize themselves doing, that is a much better way of showing students that they have power and instructing them on how to use that power. Hand in hand with that are hands-on activities, right? Empowering lessons actively engage students in forms of real work. This is one of the best ways to prepare students for the future, right? To create that capable generation. Involve students in the process of real world work that will empower them to take that work and take it a step further. This especially applies to maybe older students who are going out and doing different types of service work around their school or their community or other projects meant to kind of make the school or their surrounding community or their household a better place, a more like climate friendly or climate resilient place. Because if you are teaching students how to do these hands-on projects, then they feel a lot more prepared to take what they've learned and go out and do it on their own. So as students, a lot of what we feel like is we are only good for filling out worksheets that are graded and thrown in the trash, but hands-on work is something that really stays, right? It's not just knowledge we have in our heads and we often forget. We can go back and we can look and see, I made this. I did this with my own two hands, and this is how it's being used. This is how it's still helping people, which, speaking from experience, is a very empowering feeling. Empowering lessons are also cooperative, so they have students working together and with their teachers. This gives students a lot more responsibility, right? They have a lot more agency. They're not just being told what to do and doing only the bare minimum to fulfill those requirements. And this is a form of empowerment in of itself. It also teaches students in a controlled environment skills that they may need to take charge outside of the school. So this means giving students leadership roles, giving students agency, ways to be creative and think of their own ideas and act them within the classroom or learning experiences outside of the classroom. And once students in this environment where they feel comfortable, right, with their teachers, with their classmates, feel that they can have learned that they are capable of doing this thing, it makes them feel a lot more ready to go out and do it all on their own, or to teach their families or their friends who maybe aren't in that class how to do that as well, which, is a ripple effect. It will benefit the students and those around them, the surrounding community, even after that class is over. Empowering lessons are also intersectional, so they connect to other issues that students care about. The beauty about climate issues is that all of them are this by nature, right? Climate is already butting its head into social issues, into our literature, into our culture, into our movies, into our art. Most things students care about. There will be a way that climate naturally is already intersecting with that thing in the real world. And it's really important to emphasize this in the classroom, to bring that into the classroom, make sure that students are aware of this, because a lot of times they're not. They think of it as just a science issue or maybe just an issue for the government and for activists. But really, students already have their niches, especially as you get older, things that they are passionate about, that they care about, that they feel they're experts in. So when you tell them, be passionate about climate change, if they don't think it is a part of their thing, they're not going to feel comfortable in that. If they think it's just for activists, if they think it's just for the government or just for scientists, they're not going to feel comfortable in working in that space. But if you show students how climate is intersecting with things they already care about, they're going to be more interested. And if it connects to things they already think they are capable in, think they're experts in, it's going to make students feel a lot more comfortable and ready to engage in these issues. So they don't have to go out and become this new person to start engaging in climate issues and start taking climate action, right? They can do it with the things they already care about, doing the things that they love. And finally, empowering lessons are inspiring. They are hopeful and they push us students to stretch our limits. Environmental issues already have a terribly bad rep for being all doom and gloom. As the person who is often the one bringing up environmental issues, I'm very accustomed to that usual groan of the usual climate downer, and I'm sure many other people and teachers, if you've already tried this, are aware of that phenomenon as well. This is because really to feel engaged, empowered, or even like this is something worth listening to, we students need hope if we're ever going to feel that way, like we have power in a situation and any reason to engage with it at all. And engaging doesn't just mean something like signing petitions, going out organizing rallies, doing community work, or thinking of innovative solutions to climate problems. It means listening when someone is telling us what climate change is. It means paying attention in class and actually putting in effort into or assignments around climate. So empowering lessons need to be solutions oriented and not problems oriented. It needs to focus on the ways that students can benefit their communities and the ways that they can improve the climate situation and the ways that others are doing so as well. The many different solutions are out there because there are a lot of different exciting and innovative solutions that we can focus on rather than only talking about how many people climate change is going to kill, all of the different social, economic, and environmental impacts that are going to be hurting us in the near future because of climate change. And when you are inspiring, that's when students feel like they have a reason to go out and do something, and that inspiration is really what gives us power. So thank you for listening. As usual, any questions, comments, etc. can be directed to our email, cryouthnewjersey@gmail.com, and this video, as well as more resources about how to empower students and other related topics about teaching climate change, all live on our website, sites.google.com, etc. Thank you for listening.